Everybody, welcome back to Final Resonance TV and episode 3 of my new podcast called Welcome to Rockville. Today I have my guest, Damon Johnson, with me, who has been on all 3 of my podcasts. 8 years ago, we did a podcast together for the Musical Journeys series, which is a career retrospective. And if you haven't seen that, you need to look in the link below in the description and go check that out. It goes through all these amazing things that's happened to Damon over the years. And then 4 years ago, we did Van Halen Stories. He was number 2, the second person I interviewed on that one. And now we're back to talk about something that I don't know if that I would have predicted this, but Brother Kane is back together and coming back out with a new album called Magnolia Medicine. And you guys know Damon was in Brother Kane, but also Alice Cooper, Thin Lizzy, Black Star Riders, Leonard Skinner currently as well. But he's got this new album out with Brother Kane, which I go back with you 37 years to this moment where, well, actually before that record came out, but 37 years we go back to our early relationship. And I watched this. It's funny when I interview people for Van Halen Stories, I hear all the early days people talk about Van Halen when they were growing up in town. And I feel like that about you. I've seen that entire trajectory, and it's been the most amazing story that I love to tell my friends about and brag about you all the time because you're such a great guy and an amazing guitar player. So thank you for coming on, man.
Brother, thank you so much. You're making me blush a little bit. What an intro. What an introduction. You're right, buddy. You were there from the beginning, and you were there when I was still deeply entrenched in simply trying to be the best guitar player that I could be. I hadn't written one lyric to one song at that point. And so, yeah, man, I'm always grateful for that time period, the musicians I got to play with and learn from. And, that was right in kind of the thick of when I first got it in my head, understanding that I also needed to attempt to become a songwriter as well. So, yeah, I mean, in some ways, it feels like it was yesterday when I'd moved to Birmingham. I was playing in Split the Dark. I was coming to Music Alley to buy guitar strings and string winders and pedals and, look at, the expensive guitars hanging on the wall. They were all like $500 and $600.
Right. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, we used to service your Marshall too, which I'm going to talk about that a little bit. This album, let's just start out with this. It's like the most diverse work you've ever done that I've ever heard. I mean, I knew your material right before Brother Kane and Child when you're first developing that. That whole transition happened where you became the singer and this whole thing unfolded, and all the work you've done, this record, man, has so many different facets to it. So many different, you hear a lot of the original Brother Kane vibe, but then there's this Tom Petty thing, and whatever I just heard, the new video, right? And I got to tell you, man, this tribute to Gary Washington, Prince Charming, it just knocked me off my feet, brother. Wow. Wow.
Thank you so much, Jeff. It is a diverse record. And I think when, we first started writing for this record, I do believe I had it in my mind, well, maybe let's not be so diverse. Let's pick a lane and stay in that, because that was always kind of what hurt Brother Kane in the 90s, is our records were pretty diverse. You couldn't just put us into one category.
Right.
We weren't an alternative band. We weren't a grunge band. We weren't a metal band. We came after the whole 80s MTV hair thing. We were just 4 guys from Alabama that liked great rock and roll and great songs. And that was it. And, no one told us we needed to be a little more defined than that. But we sure came out with some good songs. And, man, Brother Kane absolutely was the springboard that led to everything that I've done since then. If Got No Shame hadn't have connected at rock radio, Jeff, it's fair to say that, I might have gone back to school and, finish getting my degree, whatever. Brother Kane changed my life. And then it ended kind of abruptly, partly because of some bad business at the record company. We were all a mess. Our personal lives were kind of super confusing. And we'd been on the road for 7 years. And so things at home were not solid and healthy. So little did I know I would get a call that led to me playing guitar for John Waite in 2001, Alice Cooper 2004. I kept writing. I had a couple side projects. I had a couple of things I tried to get off the ground. Nothing really connected. So at least I was making I could support my family, playing with Alice Cooper. How crazy is that? What an amazing experience that was. So I always had, I think, this thing in the back of my head, like, man, I just wish I could have written some more songs that, people would be interested in hearing, and just not knowing what kind of a package to present that in. That's why I did the country thing in 2007, the Whiskey Falls. I was like, okay, well, yeah, 4 guys that sing great together. I got to play all this hot Telecaster. I just knew the songs were good, and we had a great sound vocally. And, we worked that hard for 2 years. We couldn't get that off the ground. So I think I had sort of pulled that boat into the slip at the marina and just said, all right, I'm just going to, if I can play my guitar, get the kids through school, pay some bills, then I'm just going to keep doing that. So it really wasn't until I started playing with Scott Gorham and Thin Lizzy, and then that band morphed into Black Star Riders. When I met Ricky Warwick, I met a kindred spirit that I wasn't expecting. I didn't see him coming. I knew Ricky was a great singer, a great frontman. I knew about his band, The Almighty, but I had no idea that Ricky was the songwriter that he was. So again, without getting too deep in the weeds about it, when Ricky and I started writing together for Black Star Riders, man, I don't know. It was just like it poured gasoline on my inner songwriter, just ideas and, riffs and chord progressions and melodies. And Ricky was so fast coming up with lyrics. It was just inspiring. It was totally inspiring. And it changed me. And I'm so grateful for that. And I've told Ricky this. He knows I feel this way. So, when I decided to just make some solo records, I swear to God, Jeff, I was content. Like, this is what I'm going to do the rest of my life. I'm going to make solo records. I'll play some sessions here in Nashville from time to time. Hey, what a great life, be independent, do my own thing. You and I did our last interview, I think, kind of inside some of that. So I didn't see the Leonard Skinner phone call coming in 2021. I didn't see meeting my manager, Kevin. We had been friends, but we didn't start working together until I put out that album with my trio, The Get Ready.
Right.
So he really helped me with that. And Kevin came to a couple of the Skinner shows, and we were talking to fans, and Brother Kane always came up. Brother Kane, Brother Kane. Well, also at that same time, Glenn Maxey and I had really reconnected kind of during the pandemic. It was just like checking up on each other. Hey, man, how you doing? How you feeling? How's your family? That kind of stuff.
Right.
So Kevin put the Brother Kane seed in my head. I knew it was going to be impossible. Literally impossible to get all the original band together. Everybody lives in different places. Everybody's just committed to other things in their lives. I knew without question that, it's just like my solo band. They have to live in this town. They have to live in Nashville so we can rehearse, so we can hang out. So, so we can be a band. So, Glenn's not that far away. He's just an hour and a half down the street in Huntsville. So when I called Glenn and presented the idea to him, one, he got really emotional, really excited. And I just felt like, okay, this feels great. This feels right in my heart. I talked to Buck Johnson about being a part of it. Brother Kane never had a keyboard player officially. I wanted Buck involved. We've been making music together for 25 years, you know. And then it's like, man, I want to play with Jared Pope. Jared's the best drummer I've ever played with in my life. We've been playing together for 15 years.
Right.
You know, it's crazy to think that's twice as long as the original Brother
Right.
Kane
Right.
was together.
Yeah.
And then Tony Higbee. Somebody said the other day, they go, like, Damon, Tony is like a blonde mini you. He's just not mini. He's as tall as you.
Right.
And for me, that was a huge compliment, man, because Tony is a ferocious guitar player. He is a ferocious, beautiful human being, and his attitude is first class, and he just always shows up fired up and ready. So with those guys around me, I was like, all right. So we did a few shows, 2023. We wrote a couple songs, recorded those. I was like, well, man, I'm going to get bored fast if we're just doing the old songs. You know, the end of 2024, Kevin said, hey, listen, everything sounds great. It feels great. If you're really going to move this forward, I want you to consider making a full record. And I got really excited, Jeff, immediately, like within my own head, because I knew I had a lot to say.
Mm-hmm.
I had tons of ideas already. And my next phone call was Marty Fredrickson.
Right.
You know about my history with Marty.
Sure.
For your viewers that don't know, again, the edited version is I met Marty in 1991 when I had just become the singer in Child. We need to write some more songs. I started co-writing with a few different people. I met Marty in that time period. And he and I have chemistry, Jeff. You've interviewed tons of people.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in tons of bands with world-class musicians. We can all play music together, but it is super rare that you meet another musician that you have chemistry with. Marty was further down the path of being a songwriter than I was. So in a lot of ways, he taught me, as you know, Marty and I co-wrote Got No Shame, Hard Act to Follow, Full Shine On, Bread Maker, Voice of Eugenia, I Lie in the Bed I Make, Machete. You know, over those 3 albums, Brother Kane had 8 songs on the radio. Well, Marty and I co-wrote 7 of those. So he was essential. Marty was essential to whatever. I always stop short of using the word success. People would say, wow, it was a success. You were on the radio. And you toured with Van Halen and Aerosmith. Yeah, that was all great. Man, nobody was getting paid. You know, we just weren't making a living, really. Right. So, but those songs gave us more chances to keep trying. So Marty's here in Nashville. Marty has an incredible studio. Marty went on to huge success after those Brother Kane songs that we wrote together in the 90s. So, and all I can tell you, Jeff, again, in the spirit of brevity, Marty and I would get together. It almost worked out to be like every Tuesday and Thursday night at 6 p.m. We would write one song each time. So we had 7 writing sessions. We wrote 7 songs.
Wow.
And they came fast. The big difference now versus back then, I was loaded with lyrics, stories, riffs, arrangements. You know, back in the day, Jeff, I've never been too proud to say it. You know, I depended on Marty heavily to kind of start the song.
Mm-hmm.
I was so inexperienced as a writer. I'd show up with a riff sometimes and go, "Oh, that's cool," and then he would immediately start singing something, and I didn't know how to do that yet, so I learned from him. Come on, man! 27 years later, after Wishpool was written, I better have learned something since then, right?
Right.
Surely I'm better at it now than I was half of my life ago. That's the other crazy thing, Jeff. And I've asked some people to think about this, and no one has come back to me with an example or an answer. But please name a band that was together, had a major label deal, was on the radio a ton, made, toured with some the biggest names in rock, breaks up, calls it quits, and then 28 years later, puts out a new record.
Right.
That's as good top to bottom as anything we put out in the 90s. I'm not saying it's better, but I'm just saying, man, you heard the record. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's incredible. The songs are so good. Marty Fredrickson's production is ridiculous, man. It just sounds so good. And Chris Robinson said it. He said it years ago, but he goes, man, we make these records for ourselves. We just make them so we can put them on and listen to them and get off on them. Jeff Goebel, I have listened to Magnolia Medicine 1,000 times.
Right.
Since I got the mastered version, back in like June or July. It didn't take us long, man. It was just it was a pleasure to write it, to record it, to make it, the overdubs. We had so much fun, man. And there was no stress, no problems. Right. And then for this record, these songs, this quality of storytelling, the interplay between the band. I mean, good God, Jared, Pope, Glenn, Tony, they just crushed it, man. Buck Johnson, the keyboards on this record, Jeff.
I heard them. They're great.
It's incredible.
Well, it's funny because you used who did you use on the first album? It was the guy from
Chuck Lavelle.
Right.
We only had the greatest keyboard player in the history of rock.
Right.
On our debut record, and
it's very reminiscent of that. There's songs that are very reminiscent of that sound of Chuck's, type of thing. It's really great.
Well, it's a compliment to Buck.
Oh yeah,
and it's a compliment to the songs. I appreciate you saying that. And Buck and I've been together for so long and made so much music together that, of all the people in the band, he more than anyone understood, like, hey man, if it's a good song, then whatever I'm going to play on it is easy. It's not like it's a drudgery to come up with a part, Right. And, Buck, there's not keyboards on all 11 songs, but man, they're on 7 or 8 of them for sure.
Oh yeah.
And he knocked those out in a day.
Wow.
I think he came back a second day. It was effortless. And I wasn't even there that first day. I had a Skinner gig that I had to, catch a flight and go do that and come back. So as soon as I got back, Marty goes, "Hey man, come over. I got to play you this." And, I sat down in front of those big studio monitors and got to hear the parts that Buck played. And it was just, yeah, man. He sounds like Ben Montench. He sounds like Chuck. He sounds like a classic, proper, just his instincts, his musicality, his ideas. It's world class, man. World class.
Amazing stuff. It was all recorded at Marty's place. Yeah,
Marty's studio on Music Row in Nashville is called Sienna Studios, and there's actually 4 rooms there that you can track in. But we cut all the drums and the full band stuff in the main room.
Mhm.
And then we just shifted to a smaller room to do the overdubs and the vocals and things like that. And listen, there's some couple guitar solos on there that are literally what I tracked when we were getting the rhythm section parts.
Mhm.
And then when we moved to the smaller room and, you get into overdub mode, and I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to play the solo on this song. And Marty's like, why? Sounds killer, man.
Right. That was going to lead me to the next question about your guitar sounds. You know what it just sounds. It sounds just like you sound. Which, when I go back to when we were getting together with your little Marshall back in the day, I think I've told you this before, but when Quincy, our repair tech, would work on when he'd work on your Marshall, he would go, take this home tonight and put it through its paces and make sure it's going to work tomorrow, and bring it back and make sure it's good. And I would take your amp home and I would play through your amp, and it had a thing, and you have a thing with your hands that is a distinctive mid-range quality that only you have. I mean, you've always had it too. It goes back to the first album. I
Wow.
noticed it throughout throughout this record too, which I was like, there it is again. That's Damon's hands and Damon's tone, and like I said, part of it's your sound. I don't know what amp you used, but it sounded great.
Well, first of all, wow. Thank you for those super kind words, Jeff. And yeah, I love that story about you taking my amp home
Yeah, right. I did.
and putting it through the paces. That's wonderful. Well, um, you may or may not be surprised, man, that the bulk of this record we cut it on a fractal.
Oh wow, really?
We cut it on a fractal, and Marty and his son Evan, I got to give credit to Evan Fredrickson, man. He basically engineered this whole record, knocked it out of the park. Evan, uh, he's every bit as talented and in some ways more than his dad.
Wow.
And if Marty was sitting here, he'd be nodding, going, "That's absolutely right." But man, I took my usual stuff. I had the Marshall, I had my favorite Wizard, I took my Soldano,
Hmm.
a couple cabinets that I love. I had a combo amp. I have an old Gibson Falcon. I don't know that you and I've ever talked about that amp, but I've had this Gibson Falcon for shit, man, 40 years. I had that before I moved to Birmingham. So that thing sounds kind of cool, just with the right, sounds a little better with like a Les Paul Deluxe, like smaller pickups or a Telly or something like that. But a lot of days, man, just again in the interest of just kind of moving and simplicity, we'd be working out the part, and I would just plug into a fractal and go, well, yeah, we'll plug the amp in and we'll track it once we got the part. Jeff, Evan has that thing so dialed. He has gotten deep in the weeds, the nuance of, this amp and this cabinet and this microphone, and this one's, close mic, this one's a room mic, and he just does it so fast.
Wow.
He dials it up so quick that it would be inspiring for me,
Right.
and it would make me play a certain way. And Marty said word for word what you just said. He goes, "Hey, buddy, sounds like Damon Johnson playing guitar."
Wow.
He goes, "That's you. That's your sound." And I was like, "Brother, I'd love to push back on that and argue with you, but I just can't." So right at the end, we had, any of your guys that record guitars, they know what I'm talking about when you say reamp.
Sure.
We were going to have reamp day where we take just the,
Raw.
you take the audio raw signal, the direct signal, and then you go run it through your favorite amp. I have this old Fender Deluxe Reverb that sounds pretty killer. And we put that in one of the rooms and just, dimed it, all the knobs wide open, and ran that sound through it. And of the 3 songs we went to reamp, I only kept the amp tone on one song. It just didn't sound better than what we had already tracked.
Right.
And you're the first guy I've really talked to about this because you're the first guy that's brought it up.
Right.
But man, am I going to catch a rash of shit from Richard Fortas, my buddy. Man, he's going to barbecue me for this.
Uh-oh.
Maybe even Doug Aldrich, man. But Doug has worked with Marty tons of times. Marty has produced, I think, 3 Dead Daisies records. So he knows Marty really well. So you can bring it up with Doug and see what he tells you.
I'll mention it to him tomorrow.
Yeah. But look, man, it's just, I'm 61 years old, brother. I'm a veteran, and I don't have to have a certain amp. I don't have to have a certain guitar. It's about getting to the heart of the song. What is the best tempo, arrangement? The drums just sounded so amazing. We got the rhythm section. They gave me such a great, canvas to paint over.
Right.
It sounds weird to say, but in a way, the amps just didn't matter this time.
Right.
They just didn't.
So what is the sound that I heard on the video that you just sent me? Nothing to Lose. What is that?
That is one that we reamped.
Okay.
And I didn't like the reamp.
You didn't use it?
No. Listen, man, we reamped it through that deluxe.
Yeah.
And Evan did a bounce of the track. And so I took it home, and I'm listening now to all 11 songs. And when Nothing to Lose would come up with the reamp, I was like, man, I don't like this. I don't like it as much as
wow.
as I did the Fractal. And we were very close to sending it off to mastering the whole record.
Right.
And I think I was traveling, and I sent Marty and Evan a text. I said, guys, please, Nothing to Lose needs to go back to the original sound, the Fractal.
Wow.
It just got more urgency. That song is so fun, Jeff. You've heard it, man. There's a Elliot Easton Cars component. There's definitely some Tom Petty in the simplicity of those chords. I mean, it's the same 3 chords that are in Free Fallin' or something, but it's fast and it's got tempo and it's driving. That's really what meant the most to me, man, was the song. The lyric, the melody. Really proud of how my voice sounds on the whole record. But yeah, and as you and I are talking right now, I mean, that song, Nothing to Lose, is going to hit all the streaming sites this coming Friday.
Yeah,
it is the second new song that the fans will be able to hear. The album's not out in full until April 17. So,
but that sounded great. And you don't have to preach to me about Fractal because that's what I use today.
Oh, really?
That's all I use. I have the XFX 3, and I've been on it for 2 years, and it took me a while. Like you were alluding to, he knows how to make it sound great, and it takes a little doing if you haven't ever dealt with it, because it was like foreign to me. I grew up in a music store with gear, and it was so unintuitive to what I had used before, but I got around it. I finally got to the point where I'm like, now I'm 100% in. I was like, okay, I can't live without it now.
Well, couple things. I may be hitting you up for some, but I got a couple guys in town, that are deep in the weeds on fractals and Kempers and all that stuff.
Right.
I'm certainly interested. I would like to know more. However, I'll never forget going to see a couple of bands that I liked a lot, like in the early 2000s, and they were all using amp modelers. There were no amps on stage, and it just affects how the band sounds coming off the stage. I appreciate the sound man having full control, and I get all that. I just like having a speaker cabinet at least moving a little bit of air. I can pretty much stand firm and tell you, you're not going to come to see Brother Kane and everybody's on amp modelers. I just don't see that happening. I know that Tony and Glenn and I are such, call it old school if you want, I don't care. But we just, again, we like the amps. I think our fans like hearing the amps
Right,
coming
right,
off the stage. You
right.
know, we don't have to play as loud as we used to. That's definite. We're definitely working on turning the volume down. I'm having to stay on top of that Higby about that, man. He likes to get up there
Oh
and
yeah, I've seen him play.
dime dime that Bogner and just start knocking people's
He
heads
sounds great though. I mean, I saw his band play one night, open up for somebody up there, and he sounded killer. I mean, it was
yeah,
insane. You know, I was going to say that when I saw you in Europe, remember I came over with my dad to do a golf trip, and we linked up in Dublin of all places. When you were with Cooper, but you're about to make the transition to Thin Lizzy.
that's right.
And that night you were talking about you had a very small amp in front of you, kind of like down to your side, I think.
I did.
And then Leopard was, I don't know if they were fully direct at that point or not. You had mentioned
I think Leopard still had some amps up there. Now they're pretty much fully direct.
yeah.
But hey, man, we just played with Brother Kane played with Def Leppard last August. Man, they sounded amazing. They sounded amazing, and I was able to talk to both Phil and Vivian about it after the show. Again, great songs. You got great songs, man. You know,
It's great stuff.
that's the other thing too, Jeff. You and I've spent so much time over the years just talking about guitar and Edward and Randy Rhoads and Mick Ralphs and Jimmy Page and Pat Travers, all the guitar heroes, man. You know, I feel like I had a couple of big chapters in my life where I was so focused on that, and it has certainly served me well.
Oh yeah.
And I still, man, if any of that stuff ever comes on my Spotify or on the radio, man, I turn it up and I enjoy it. AC/DC for sure, man. However, most of my focus really is the songs, the writing. If I'm listening to music for pleasure, 3/4 of the time I'm listening to a singer songwriter, or I'm listening to, Bob Seger or Joni Mitchell or Crosby, Stills and Nash or Jason Isbell,
Mm-hmm.
or Steve Earle, people like that. I'm looking for that inspiration, man, to phrase a lyric a different way. Just fodder for like, wow, man, listen to how they told that story. What a great lyric. It just pushes me to keep writing, keep thinking like that. Because it's just all about the songs, man. I think that's the other thing. It's going to separate Brother Kane from any of our peers from way back then, the ones that are still together and that are still putting out records. I haven't heard those records, but I don't know. Are they writing songs that are as good now as they did back then? Maybe. I hope so. I hope so for them.
Right.
But I just know that the reaction we're getting from this record, even from just our friends and family and our inner circle that has heard the whole record, or even the reaction to the 3 songs that are, available now.
Right.
There's a whole lot of head scratching and people shaking their heads going, wow, how we didn't see this coming. And I'm like, well, I didn't either, man. So we're all in the we're all in the same boat.
Well, I let my wife listen to Prince Charming because it just took me one of the first songs. I was like, dude, very hard to listen to and not shed a tear. I mean, it is that powerful, dude. And tell me about that song and how that came together. And obviously having Johnny Van Zandt on it is an amazing, thing too. Even the little Freebird thing at the end, dude, the little Easter egg or whatever. For me and you, we know the history. And so it really touched me in that way. Tell me about that song.
I wrote Prince Charming in March of 2023. I wrote it the day after Gary's funeral.
Mm.
The funeral was a powerful, emotional, moving event that I wasn't prepared for. I felt very honored to be there. I'd only been playing with the guys for like a year and a half. Gary and I had spent a good amount of time together, and he'd been so wonderful to me, so encouraging. He was so happy that I was a part of the band and that I was playing his parts. And Dale, his wife, his daughters, Annie and Mary, just beautiful, beautiful people. The funeral was super powerful. And, it was raining, it was storming, the weather was just bad. And, but we all assembled at the chapel. The service was very moving. I had just the heaviest conversation with Dale and the girls, just the four of us kind of standing in a circle that I will cherish it for the rest of my life. Then we transitioned outside for the graveside service. Everybody got in their cars. All the band members, essentially went to the airport and everybody flew home. I got in my truck at Nashville Airport and drove home, and I didn't turn on the radio. I was just still kind of in my thoughts and, kind of doing my own sort of mourning the passing of my friend and one of my greatest guitar heroes. And Jeff, something magical happened. Something magical happens. I've read about songwriters, saying that, a song just sort of came fully formed into their head and they knew it instantly. Like, oh yeah, wow.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when, uh, not comparing myself to Paul McCartney, but it's like the story he always told about Yesterday.
Right.
He woke up one morning and he was singing that melody. He didn't have the words yet, but he thought it was something else. And I think he sang it for George Martin. And he said, "What song is this, George?" And George goes, "Nothing. That's yours." And, this melody came to me. And the first time I sang it, I sang those words, "Where have you gone, Prince Charming?
Mm-hmm.
You've gone on to rest in your sweet by and by. Peace on your way to that great over yonder, free from your sorrow and free to fly." I had pulled into our subdivision. I'm almost to my house,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a stop sign by this little playground where the kids in the neighborhood play.
Mm-hmm.
And it was still cloudy, and it wasn't raining like it was in Jacksonville, but it was still, the weather wasn't great. And I just stopped at that stop sign and I was looking out across that field, and that melody and that lyric just, it fell out of the sky.
Mm.
As I drove the like block and a half to get up to my house, all the lyrics, just that verse, "Black clouds like wolves race through the sky." I swear to you, Jeff, it all came to me.
Mm.
And the other thing that is unbelievable, it's hard to believe even when I say it out loud, I never wrote it down.
Mm.
I knew I didn't need to write it down. I'm like, man, this is a fully formed song. I don't know what I'm ever going to do with it. Maybe one day I'll play it for Johnny and Ricky, and if they're writing more songs, might be something they want to work on or whatever. That was it. I knew it existed. I could sing it like that. And I came in the house and I told my wife, Linda, I just said, "Hey, wow, I just wrote a song about Gary." I said, I don't need to write it down. I don't need to sing it into my iPhone. Fast forward another, couple years, I'm having those Tuesday, Thursday night sessions with Marty.
Mm.
And we took a break one night and I said, "Hey man, I want to sing something for you and tell me what you think." He goes, "What is it?" I said, "It's a song I wrote about Gary." And I said, "I don't think it's a Brother Kane song, but," I said, "nobody's heard it. I just want to sing it for you." He goes, "Okay." And I just sat there on his couch and, in that drop D tuning, which Brother Kane's got half a dozen songs in that tuning. I've played a ton of songs for Marty Fredrickson over the 34 years that we've been friends. He's never reacted to any of them the way he did to this, you know. He goes, Damon, that is so beautiful. He goes, that's a wonderful song. I said, well, is it right for us? You know, he goes, hell yeah, it's right for this band. He goes, you know, Skynyrd is such a part of your life. Skynyrd is such a part of Brother Kane's story.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they were such an influence on the songs that we wrote, certainly on the first record.
Oh, yeah.
And we toured with them, you know, and we became friends with all of them. I said, okay, well, let's work on it. What does it need? He goes, it needs some drums and a piano and an organ. That song is done, man.
Wow.
So, you
That's
know,
cool.
I started playing it for the guys in the band. I played it for Glenn Maxey. He just totally choked up. Tony, Jared, and Buck, you know, they all were just like, yeah, man, that's beautiful. Now, this is before I had any idea about Johnny and Ricky and the girls.
Oh, yeah, yeah, of course.
Sometime in the next week or two, I had to travel with some Skinner dates. Well, one day Johnny Van Zant comes by my hotel room and he goes, hey, man, what are you doing? Like, I'm just, you know, I'm tightening up these lyrics. He knew we were going to make a record. He'd been super supportive about all that. I just said, hey, man, can I play you something? He goes, sure. And I'm sure he thought I was going to hit, you know, play on my laptop and something come through those little speakers. Well, I just reached over and got my guitar and tuned it, you know, and I just sat there on the edge of the bed and sang it. Well, I sang the first verse and the chorus, the second verse, and when the second chorus came in, Jeff, Johnny just fell in naturally and started singing a harmony with me.
Mm.
And I've got goosebumps right now telling you the story. I definitely had goosebumps that day in that moment. And in my head, I was just like, oh my God, it sounded like a hymn. It sounded like Amazing Grace
Mm-hmm.
or the Star Spangled Banner. I mean, it was such an amazing moment. And I ended the song and he was like, wow, man. He goes, what a beautiful tribute to our brother and our friend. And I didn't hesitate. I just said, hey, man, what would you honor me with at least considering the possibility of singing on that song on our Brother Kane record? Jeff, he didn't blink. He goes, absolutely, Damon. He goes, I'd be honored. I'd be thrilled to sing on that.
Wow.
So my next phone call was down the hallway to Medlock. I said, hey, man, because Ricky had heard the song. I had a little acoustic version on my phone by that time because I was playing it for the guys in the band. I asked Ricky, I said, hey, man, would you consider playing a little bit of slide guitar? You know, in the verses, we're just going to keep it super simple. And he's like, of course, man, that'd be great. He goes, you should ask Stacy and Carol to sing on it.
Right.
The girls that sing in Skinner.
All right.
And, you know, man, this all happened like super fast. And, you know, I'm so grateful to my entire Skinner family because everyone said yes without hesitation. The minute I got confirmation from the four of them, I called Marty. I said, hey, bro, guess what? And as soon as I told him, he goes, Damon, this is a game changer. He goes, this song is incredible no matter what. He goes, but this is next level special. I will never be able to properly express my gratitude to the four of them, Jeff, but also to Marty. The job he did in producing that song is just first class. It is first class. It is so classic. It is so timeless. You know, look, man, Marty's made all kind of records. He just instinctively knew exactly how that song should sound. And as I said earlier about the whole record, man, it was just effortless. You know, it was just effortless. We captured the band, Glenn, Jared, Tony, Buck wasn't there for those sessions that day, so he came in later and overdubbed the keys. But we already had Johnny and Ricky and the girls on there. So Buck put that gorgeous piano, the organ, and then he added a third harmony part to what the girls sang. I've shed plenty of tears just listening to it. Just grateful for Gary Rosington. I mean, let's be real. The very first guitar parts I ever learned to play ever were Gary's, like Give Me Three Steps. I think, that solo and Give Me Three Steps, that was some of the first like single note thing I ever attempted to try and figure out. I didn't know it was Gary. I just knew it was this cool part, uh, that simple arpeggio in Simple Man, those three chords, over and over for the whole song. That was Gary. So my career and the universe and fate, just I don't know what to call it, man. I'll leave that up to somebody else to figure out. But for me to arrive at a place where I could help the band and fill in for Gary, it was such an honor. And we didn't, none of us expected Gary to reach the end. And I certainly really hadn't given any thought to the band going on beyond that, And it wasn't until I had that conversation with Dale Rosington and with Mary and Annie, their daughters, they just said, listen, he loves you, we love you, and you're carrying on this legacy. That's all Gary ever wanted, is he just wanted the music to continue. That's what all those original guys wanted. So it is an indescribable honor and a privilege for me to be a part of that, to be just a tiny footnote in the Lynyrd Skynyrd story. When we did the interviews for the first Brother Kane record, we're meeting radio for the first time and they're getting to know us. Of course, they always ask the generic question, what are your influences? And I would always say, well, we love Guns N' Roses and the Black Crowes, but, it really goes back to bands like Thin Lizzy and Van Halen and Lynyrd Skynyrd.
Right.
It's crazy, Jeff. It's crazy because I didn't know we were about to tour with Lynyrd Skynyrd. I didn't know that we would tour with Van Halen. I had no way of knowing that Scott Gorham would call me one day to stand next to him on stage and play those Thin Lizzy songs that changed my life as well as those Skynyrd songs. I have lived a fairy tale. It is not possible. It's unbelievable. Maybe that's why I'm so excited about writing more songs, Jeff, and making this Brother Kane record, because I just feel like, man, I have to do more work, because nobody gets the golden ticket that I have received to play with Alice Cooper and the Thin Lizzy guys and Lynyrd Skynyrd. That's
so. Kirk Hammett comes to Nashville with Greenie, and you finally get you hold of the thing. Tell me about that.
Man, I have to full credit to my buddy Tyler Smith. Great drummer here in Nashville, and crazy random. He had a jam session where he played drums for Kirk and Robert Trujillo on bass, because those two guys have like a side band. It's like a cover band that they do some stuff with out in San Francisco. I'm at my house, dinner time here. We phone ring and it was Tyler. Hey, man, he goes, Damon, what are you doing? I said, I'm about to eat dinner. He goes, listen, Kirk Hammett's asking for you. See, I had met Kirk when I did that metal show. Don Jameson, Eddie Trunk, those guys.
And Michael Schenker.
Michael Schenker was there. Yeah, it's a whole other story.
Right.
But Kirk was super cool that night, and he knew all about me playing with Scott and Brian Downey and Lizzie. And, you know, he had a lot of questions for me. And we just had a great little meeting. But he had just gotten Greenie then. So I have a picture of me holding Kirk's phone with the picture of Greenie on it. He was just asking Tyler, like, well, who else have you played with? And he said Damon Johnson, because Tyler had done a couple gigs with me.
Right.
And Kirk goes, oh, I know Damon. Is he here? Call him. Get him down here. He's going to want to see. And that's literally how it happened.
Wow.
That's totally how it wouldn't have happened without Tyler. Yeah, I went down to sound check, the big rehearsal facility here. They had wrapped up their rehearsal. They were just like standing out in the hallway. I came over and gave Kirk a hug, and he introduced me to Robert. And he's like, well, you want to see it? And I'm like, yes, right now. So I'm thinking he's got to go to another room and get like his guitar tech or a security guard or a police officer that has to be traveling with him for him to be carrying around this priceless instrument. Jeff, he turns around and grabs this beat up gig bag that is laying on this bench over by the water fountain, unzips it and pulls it out and hands it to me.
Wow. Oh my
I'm
God.
like, what? As a fan, you know that for me, Gary might be the GOAT. He might be, he might be over Edward for me.
Right.
Sometimes he is. Like the guy had it all. He just had it all. And for just everything that guitar represents, the Peter Green component, all of it. My hands were kind of shaking.
Wow. Yeah.
My hands were kind of shaking. I was like, there it is. You know, Kurt just put my mind at ease, you know, because he's like, yeah, man, check it out. And so, you know, I just kind of bent down on one knee and just, you know, started playing it with, you know, just, I didn't even have it picked, man. I just like felt the neck and bent the strings, and it was biblical. It was biblical, man. It's, you know, there's no denying. It was, it's just a holy grail of guitars, in my opinion. And I'm so happy for Kirk. I'm so grateful to Kirk that he is the custodian now,
right,
of that priceless relic.
Right.
I don't know what he paid for it. I don't care what he paid for it. I just know that guitar is in the hands of one of the all-time greats that has the proper respect and admiration and love for it that the rest of us do.
Right.
And I'm eternally grateful to Kirk Hammett for letting me see that guitar again. Tyler Smith for the win. It wouldn't have happened. It would not have happened without Tyler. Tyler, if you're watching this, buddy, I hope you watch this, Tyler. I love you, man. I'm grateful to you.
So you're sitting at home, and how long is it before you actually have it in your hands?
I can tell you exactly. It's 28 minutes door to door from my house to sound check with no traffic.
Wow.
So I pulled right up to the complex where I knew they were. I walked in the door, probably 35 minutes from phone call to it's in my hand.
That's so cool. Like, you didn't have any idea, and then in 35 minutes you're holding Greenie.
I hope I get to see it again sometime.
Oh, right. Who wouldn't? That's insane. I'm gonna hit you with a couple more things. A song at the end of the album, "Are You There? Are You There Anymore?" This thing it's crazy to me because it's like you somehow channeled Bruce Springsteen and Thin Lizzy into the same song. It's so wow. The melody of the vocal is very Phil. And then there's this vibe that's going on that's very Springsteen. Tell me about that whole song. How did that come about?
Wow, man.
Is that how you would read it? I mean, I don't know.
100%.
Really?
100%. See, man, I don't know why there's not more, like proficient guitar players that are also passionate songwriters.
Right.
Because to achieve a certain level of skills and technique as a guitar player, man, you're listening to some incredible lyrics and singers along the way.
Right.
So, listening to Ronnie Van Zant, listening to Phil Lynott, listening to Bob Seger, Tom Petty, Bruce Springsteen, just learning songs to go play in the clubs, for Christ's sake.
Right.
I'm just, my job then was just a guitar player, but I'm hearing these insane lyrics and you're like, wow, what a good song. That verse, that second verse of Night Moves by Bob
Mhm.
Seger. Come on, man. He's writing to all of us. We've
Right.
all lived
Right.
that.
Right. Right.
Um, so Are You In There Anymore? Ricky Warwick. He has a co-write on that.
Okay.
We were writing for a Black Star Riders album in 2015, so that would have been our second record. He had that chorus, that melody. Are you in there anymore? Are you in there anymore, my friend? Because it's getting hard to tell. And I had it on my phone, Jeff, and I loved it. And it was great, and he loved it. And somewhere in that session, he changed direction. He took some of those lyrics and put it in a different song. And that song was great. It turned into a song called Finest Hour, which
Okay.
is on that
Yeah.
Killer Instinct Black Star Riders. A great song, man. Great song. But I refused to delete that little idea on my phone because I loved it so much. And I was like, man, one day I'm going to pull that out. I'm going to work on it. So voila, 9 years later,
Wow.
I'm, just cup of coffee, nothing was like popping. I'm like, well, let me go through my phone, see if I can find something. And I stumbled on that. I was like, oh, I'm doing it. If it takes me a week, I'm gonna finish this. I'm gonna write it because there's just so much possibility just in those words. So again, without getting too deep in the weeds, Jeff, I had someone specific in mind to write those words about.
Mm-hmm.
Are you in there anymore, my friend? Because it's getting hard to tell. And it
Mm-hmm.
kind of came from a little bit of a angsty, frustrated place. So I wrote the first verse and then I got into the second verse and I started thinking of someone else. Still like some shenanigans and frustration, whatever. And I'm feeling good about it. I'm like, oh yeah, I love the rhyme scheme. There was absolutely some Phil Lynott phrasing in there.
Oh yeah.
I love that hall. I have always loved Phil and Bruce's almost talking way of singing and telling a story.
Mm-hmm.
Born to Run, you know. Uh, Together, Wendy, we can live with the sadness. I'll love you with all the madness in my soul. That he puts that in like a 6-second thing, man. Um, that kind of writing always spoke to me. When the song was finished, Jeff, I made a little demo and I sat back and I listened to the whole thing. And then it hit me. I'm like, wow, man, this song isn't about someone else. This is about me. I'm
Mm.
singing to myself. And it became almost a song of redemption. Like, I'm not the guy I used to be. I've had a lot of hangups, man. I've gotten my knees dirty and my chin busted and been to no small amount of therapy,
Right. Right.
to deal with things. So it became this song of, like I said, redemption, because I'm not that guy. I'm happy that it's hard to tell that I'm not in that guy that I was 35 years ago is not here anymore. I'm different now,
Right. Right.
and I'm grateful for that. So good on you for tapping into the Springsteen,
Right.
Phil, man.
There's a lot of cool things. There's one other cool really thing that I mean, obviously the This Means War is a rocker that just that's just old school. And then there's there's a great piece that in the second song, Take a Chance, that you do on the out with the Allman Brothers kind of vibe, right? Sort of major pentatonic harmonized thing. It's so cool. I was like, oh man, there it is. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you
Dig
for
that.
both of those, Jeff. I have to tell you, because there's no way that people would know this yet. Uh, the guitar solo on If This Means War, that's Tony Higbee.
Oh, okay. Wow.
He smoked it. He absolutely smoked it. I had made a demo. You know, I was sending the guys demos so they at least have some idea of what we were going to do when we get to the studio. And he just straight up called me. He goes, "Hey, man, that solo section, you think, could we split it? Like, you take the first half." And I said, "Dude, just play the whole thing. Just knock yourself out, man. Have fun with it." And he crushed it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hell,
That's it. I
we
heard.
had like Tony had a couple of days that were focused on his parts and his overdubs, and I just remember me and Marty sitting on the couch and just laughing. We're just like, "Bro, that is incendiary." Um,
Right.
take a chance. Very rootsy, very classic. Black Crows, Small Faces. Um, but that solo thing in the middle, man, is just primo, very Allman Brothers harmony guitar kind of thing.
Mhm.
Uh, that's Marty overdubbing that little electric piano thing
Okay.
that just sounds so wonderful. And Tony and I did those bends and made it's a cool little section, man. I
Yeah. Well,
love it.
yeah.
I'm glad you picked up on that.
Well, because it's a lift sort of situation. Like it's in this more of a minor key, and then you go to the major pentatonic kind of vibe, and it's so. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a definite shift, kind of a what am I trying to say? Not a reality shift, but it's like you go to a different place
Oh
for eight
yeah.
bars,
Yeah, it was really cool, man. Yeah, this album is so cool, man. There's so many things on it. I really appreciate you coming on and talking about it. It's great to have you on my podcast, man.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for listening to
Absolutely.
Magnolia Medicine. And the last thing I would tell your people is go to brotherkane.com. You can pre-order the vinyl and the CD right now. The vinyl packaging is gorgeous. It's just it's a special moment in my career right now.
It is.
Uh,
When will that video hit that you shared with me?
Friday,
Okay, cool. It's really
this
cool.
Friday, it's super cool, man. People will be able to see that. We're going to release another one of my favorite songs, "The Wolf on the Mountain." That song is going to come out at the end of March, and then April 17. The plan is the full record drops. We're shooting a proper video for Prince Charming with Johnny and Ricky and Carol and Stacy, and I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be really special.
That's killer. So touring, what are you going to do? You're going to work it in between Skinner, I guess.
Yeah, the good news for Brother Kane activity this year is Skinner doesn't really get super busy until like July. So we've got the first half of the year. We've got a few dates up already. We got several more we're going to announce in the coming week. And there's a possible run a good bit of June, fingers crossed, that's going to come together. I feel optimistic that it's going to. As soon as you see those dates, you'll go, "Oh, that's what he was talking about."
Right, right, right.
Yeah. So, yeah, man, there's so much information at everybody's fingertips, but brotherkane.com is it's popping with the new record. We restriped it and it's all Magnolia Medicine. Fantastic.